From the nation's capital, Eye on Washington with Marilee Joyce. A weekly discussion about the federal issues most important to Nevada. And now, from Washington, D.C., here's Marilee Joyce.
And good day to you. I'm Marilee Joyce, and this is Eye on Washington. It's the only statewide Nevada news program produced in Washington, D.C. Every week, Eye on Washington takes you straight to Capitol Hill for a discussion with Nevada's delegation and other leaders about the federal matters that matter to you. Today's topic, college affordability. We're going to learn about a federal effort to help would-be college students afford that big tuition bill. And my guest to talk about that effort and affordability in general is Dr. Margo Martin. She is the Vice President of Transition Activities and the former acting president at the College of Southern Nevada. And it's so nice to have you here.
Thank you so much, Marilee. It's great to be here today.
Thanks so much. College affordability is one of the biggest barriers for college participation among college students. Now, that quote in the Review Journal last fall came from Tom Riley, the chancellor of the Nevada higher education system. And today on Eye on Washington, we'll look at one of the top reasons so many people don't seek higher education, and we'll look at legislation currently being looked at on Capitol Hill aimed at reducing student debt. Now, would it surprise you to learn that education costs have increased nearly 700% in the past 40 years. That's what Nevada U.S. Senator Catherine Cortez Masto said last October when she introduced a bill she hopes will increase tuition assistance benefits, and which we're going to detail later in our show. First, though, let's look at the issue that led her to do so, college affordability, or should we say lack of it for so many people. According to a 2016 report from Pennsylvania University's Institute for Research on Higher Education, college affordability has fallen in all 50 states. And among comments about the report was this one from Vanderbilt Associate Professor William Doyle saying, quote, "Today, having at least some college education is a prerequisite for a middle-class lifestyle, but the increasing prices are keeping out lower income students." First of all, Dr. Martin, welcome to Eye on Washington. It's so nice to have you here.
Thank you.
I know none of this is news to you about college affordability, or to Dr. Riley, who, again, as I said, is the chancellor of the state's higher education system. I know he's spoken out many times about the need to help more students afford and attend higher education or institutions of higher learning. In your opinion, how serious is this at the Nevada's 7 higher ed institutions?
Well, Marilee, thank you again for having me on today. And yes, this is a significant issue in our state. And so one of the things that I learned in Clark County, which is where College of Southern Nevada is located, about 50% of the students who graduate from high school actually immediately follow into post-secondary education. I believe that on the national level, the average is about 61%. So we've got some traction to make up there. And when you talk about, why do you think young people today are not going on to college after high school? There are any number of factors. One could be that they don't have a parent or somebody in their family that's gone on to college, and they just don't see that as their next step.
Sure.
Many of them really do see the affordability piece being really critical. And so that's something that not only at CSN but across NSHE, we've been really working to create different pathways and helping students and their families know that that's an option for them.
Things could be worse in Nevada. That report I mentioned listed Nevada as 14th in overall affordability, but that relatively high ranking, it doesn't mean that it's still not very cost prohibitive for so many, does it?
That's absolutely correct. If I could give an example that's a little bit of a tangent, we have dual enrollment opportunities that are afforded students in the high schools, and those high school students and their families pay $50 per course. But for a lot of families, you wouldn't think that $50 would be a game changer. But for many families, it truly is. And so anything that we can do within the system to create greater access becomes important.
You say anything we can do. What are some things, or at least some ideas?
Some of the things that we're doing, first of all, we've certainly got the Nevada Promise, which is a last dollar scholarship that we just implemented in this last year, and over 1,300 students across the state qualified for that last dollar scholarship. And so that's one avenue. Another avenue is certainly within our dual and concurrent enrollment programs. We have students, in fact, at our CSN high schools. We have a high school on each of our CSN campuses, and those students are able to not only complete their high school diplomas while on campus, but many of them complete their AA degree in addition.
Nice. You know, if you've been fortunate enough to have that degree or that education certificate, you might not feel the seriousness of that comment that I read from that Vanderbilt professor. He said having at least some college education is a prerequisite to a middle-class lifestyle. You know, that's really something to think about. And if you can't afford it in the first place, you might be shut out of a middle-class lifestyle.
Absolutely. So many of our youth who graduate from high school, particularly in Southern Nevada and the hospitality industry, you know, students can oftentimes find jobs that are making a pretty good wage. But the challenge with that is that there's not that opportunity for career improvement or upward mobility in that regard. And so then if they've only got a little bit of college, or then they've not completed a credential, a certificate, what they've done is they've accrued debt, but they don't have that credential that's going to move them forward.
Okay. And when we return, why would a tax-related bill matter to people dreaming of higher ed without the means to pursue it? How would that help them? Well, let's find out right after this.
You're watching Eye on Washington with Marilee Joyce, brought to you by Caesars Entertainment, the Regional Transportation Commission of Washoe County, the Las Vegas Sands Corporation, the Las Vegas Convention and Visitors Authority, NV Energy, Jim Marsh Automotive and Body Shop, the Rogich Communications Group, and Renown Health.
I have 3 tests next week. I'm going to be studying all weekend. Oh. Are you studying tonight? We can meet up and study together. Oh, yeah, that sounds good. What time? I work until 6. Okay, sounds good. Just text me after. Okay. No!
There is no text, tweet, or call that's worth a life.
One pedestrian death is one too many.
Look up.
And look out for each other.
Want more federal news that affects Nevada, its businesses, and its residents? Then you need to subscribe to Nevada's Washington Watch newsletter, your sole source of online news direct from Washington, D.C. Visit joycecommunications.com and subscribe today.
Planet Hollywood, Paris, Harrah's, Caesar's Palace. It's one of the most exciting skylines in the world, Las Vegas. Caesars Entertainment has nearly 50 casinos worldwide, including these. But no matter which casino you visit, we want you to play responsibly. And if you need help setting or keeping a limit, we hope you'll call this number. You see, we know you're coming to our casinos to have a good time, and we always want you to leave feeling like you did.
I got my own iPod Touch and use my dad's login to get on gambling sites. Poker is the best, but I'm losing a lot. Since I'm too young to play, they're not allowed to keep the money and my dad won't find out. That's right, isn't it?
Unsafe sleep conditions cause serious injury and even death to infants. Never sleep with your baby on a sofa, in a chair, or in an adult bed. Protect the baby you love from becoming a tragic statistic. The only safe place for your baby to sleep is alone, on its back, in a crib, and in your room. For more information, visit cribsforkids.org. That's cribsforkids.org.
And welcome back to Eye on Washington, our look at an effort on Capitol Hill to place college within better reach of those who at present can afford to ease the bill facing would-be college students in Nevada and across the nation. My guest today to talk about it is Dr. Margo Martin. She's the Vice President of Transition Activities and former acting president of the College of Southern Nevada. Upward mobility. a phrase with a nice ring to it to people seeking to better their lives and get good jobs with a matching good paycheck. So it makes sense that when Nevada U.S. Senator Catherine Cortez Masto teamed with now former Arizona U.S. Senator Jeff Flake on a nonpartisan bill to help more students go to college, that they named it the Upward Mobility Enhancement Act. The bill would aid students who receive educational benefits from their employers. It would eliminate a tax penalty paid by students who receive benefits from employers to help cover costs of higher education. Senator Cortez Masto and Flake told the press last fall that the bill would provide an incentive to instead invest and retain a more skilled workforce. Under current law, if an employer provides more than $5,250 in tuition assistance benefits, the employee is required to pay taxes on all benefits above that threshold. This threshold was last updated in 1978 when $5,250 was often enough to cover the annual cost of most college tuitions. The bill ends the penalty and revises the code, letting employers provide up to $11,500 in tax-exempt benefits. The two senators say the current threshold now functions as a tax penalty that discourages employees from taking full advantage of employer-provided educational assistance. And, you know, Dr. Martin, when the bill was first announced by Senator Cortez Masto, she said, quote, "The threshold now functions as a tax penalty that discourages employees from taking full advantage of employer-provided educational assistance." As I said, I imagine that you are a fan of this legislation. It would help a lot of people, wouldn't it?
Absolutely. This is going to be a real game changer for a lot of people within the state of Nevada as well as across the nation. In fact, NSHE and under the guidance and leadership of Tom Riley, our chancellor, just moved forward a program with MGM, which would enable all MGM students or employees to be able to pursue a college education with that full support from MGM. And so to be able to have that increase in the amount of money that an employer could provide is, as I said, is going to be a game changer, not only for MGM employees, but for folks all across the state and the nation that receive that benefit from their employer. And
I guess what helped kind of kick off this effort in general for Senator Cortez Masto was her focus in general on updating the tax code. She said last fall that the tax code needs to be updated to help families achieve educational goals and better help them provide better for themselves and for their families. Do you agree that this bill will help a lot of students?
I do think that this bill will help a great deal of students. I think it really speaks to promoting that college-going culture and creating greater access.
This bill is another example of something that perhaps was just needed to be updated. You know, you see that a lot often with legislation that something that was done so many years ago that was a great, it remains a great effort in this case as well, but it was such a great idea at the time. This hasn't been updated since 1978, and back then the exemption was $5,250. That was enough back then for, you know, to cover tuition at many, if not most, at least public schools. But that's 40 years ago. Back then, that amount could cover most colleges for tuition, but not today. So now, $15,500. That's going to be a big difference to a lot of people.
Well, as you pointed out earlier in the program, the cost of college education has increased exponentially over the past 40 years. So absolutely, I think that this kind of change is going to create greater access, and more students are going to be able to reach that goal attainment of college education.
All right. When we return, what else can be done on the Hill and in the state to put college within reach? Let's talk about it. Get my guest's opinion right after this.
Nevada's direct link to Capitol Hill. Eye on Washington with Marilee Joyce. the only statewide Nevada news show based in Washington, D.C. All the top federal matters that matter most to Nevadans. Marilee talks with our congressional delegation and other leaders about the federal news you need to know. Eye on Washington with Marilee Joyce, Nevada's Eye on Capitol Hill.
When you think RTC, what comes to mind? How about jobs? RTC road projects bring thousands of jobs to Washoe County, expanding and connecting northern Nevada, growing our local economy, providing a more secure future for our residents and their families. So when you think jobs, think RTC. Your RTC, the RTC of Washoe County.
Here in Nevada, opioid overdoses have killed more than 2,800 people and led to more than 30,000 visits to the emergency room since 2010. I've spoken to many families who have felt the tragic effects of opioid addiction, losing friends and loved ones. Opioid abuse alters a person's brain, leading to addiction. If there's even a chance of abuse, you should seek help immediately. Go to healthierNV.org for information and resources. If we work together, we will win this battle.
Planet Hollywood, Paris, Harrah's, Caesar's Palace. It's one of the most exciting skylines in the world, Las Vegas. Caesars Entertainment has nearly 50 casinos worldwide, including these. But no matter which casino you visit, we want you to play responsibly. And if you need help setting or keeping a limit, we hope you'll call this number. You see, we know you're coming to our casinos to have a good time, and we always want you to leave feeling like you did.
That school bus is yellow for a reason. Yellow means caution. Those flashing lights are red for a reason. Red means stop.
Hey girl, what's up? Nothing much.
Never pass a stopped school bus. Don't pass from either direction. It's not just the law, it's a child's life.
Brought to you by Child Safety Network and the School Bus Safety Company.
We all think about it. You think about it when he buckles in, when you check your mirrors and put away your phone. RTC thinks about safety too. In fact, we create it. Center turn lanes mean fewer blind spots. Bike lanes keep cyclists and you safe. Roundabouts reduce injury collisions, and all these crosswalks are designed to keep families like yours safe. Safety is your priority, and it's ours too. Every day, in everything we do.
And welcome back to Eye on Washington and our discussion of college affordability and whether an effort on Capitol Hill by a Nevada delegation member might help ease things for would-be students. We've been talking about it today with our special guest, Dr. Margo Martin, the Vice President of Transition Activities and the former acting president at the College of Southern Nevada. So that bill from Senators Cortez Masto and Flake is potentially great news for you if your employer is a generous soul who can afford tuition assistance benefits. But maybe you don't work for someone participating in that, so what else can be done to ease the cost of higher education? Well, education is always a huge political issue, so I looked back at the 2016 presidential election to see what some of the many candidates on both sides of the aisle were suggesting. Ideas will sound familiar to many of you, I'm sure. They included free tuition at public university colleges and community colleges, grants to states, student investment plans, meaning that investors would fund college tuition and students would pay it back from income over a set number of years, reducing interest rate on the student loans, and preventing the feds from profiting on student loan interest. During the election, President Trump said he would, quote, work with Congress on reforms to ensure our universities are making a good faith effort to reduce the cost of college and student debt in exchange for federal tax breaks and tax dollars. So, Dr. Martin, these have all been floated. Members of my audience will like some, dislike others. Let me ask you this. You are one of Nevada's top education officials. How do you define college affordability?
I think college affordability really involves creating access for students in a number of ways. Some of the things that have been implemented at CSN, which is where I currently work, We have our CSN high schools that I mentioned earlier, which is an opportunity for students to earn college credit as well as high school credit. Many of those students, this past year, we graduated 44 of the almost 500 students with their AA or AS degrees, and
Wow.
that was with no charge to the student. In addition, I mentioned earlier the Nevada Promise. When we talk about free college, that really is the model, is that last dollar scholarship. And what I mean by that is that students must apply for federal financial aid, and then the Nevada Promise caps off whatever was not covered by financial aid. And let's say a student didn't necessarily qualify for financial aid, but qualified for Promise, that whatever wasn't covered would be covered by that scholarship.
You know, we do hear a lot about free tuition, and I'm always reminded of that old saying that free isn't really free. We have to remember money has to come from somewhere. Teachers need paychecks, the lights need to be on in classrooms, et cetera, et cetera. So free, sometimes that means something else was cut or taxes were raised.
In this instance, that's really not the case. Particularly with the Nevada Promise, that was an initiative that was brought forward through the legislature, and so funding was earmarked specifically for that purpose. In this past year, $3.1 million was earmarked to cover that last dollar scholarship. So there weren't any taxes raised in order to do that. And in terms of the CSN high school model, we're really leveraging resources currently available through CCSD, as well as the resources that are already happening at the college.
It's great news because, you know, the bottom line is too many students they graduate so happy to have that degree and so miserable to have that debt, don't they?
Absolutely.
So that's good news. You know, I know that you and other higher education leaders certainly keep in touch with what the delegation is doing regarding school matters in general, education matters in general. Do you have thoughts on other ideas that the Congress, the federal government should be doing in general to put college more within reach of those seeking higher education?
So some of the things that I think are really important are looking at how can we create greater access for student populations that we might consider to be disenfranchised. One particular model that we have been piloting in Nevada is our prison education program, particularly in southern Nevada. This is an opportunity to give individuals who have fallen by the wayside and found themselves in difficult times, prior to their getting out of prison, giving them an opportunity to not only earn college credit, but also guiding them toward apprenticeship opportunities, which is a way for them to become gainfully employed immediately upon exiting the prison. So that's just one example.
Fantastic, thank you. And when we return, Dr. Martin on other higher education priorities moving forward. That's right after this.
Planet Hollywood, Paris, Harrah's, Caesar's Palace. It's one of the most exciting skylines in the world, Las Vegas. Caesars Entertainment has nearly 50 casinos worldwide, including these. But no matter which casino you visit, we want you to play responsibly. And if you need help setting or keeping a limit, we hope you'll call this number. You see, we know you're coming to our casinos to have a good time, and we always want you to leave feeling like you did.
Nevada's direct link to Capitol Hill. Eye on Washington with Marilee Joyce. The only statewide Nevada news show based in Washington, D.C. All the top federal matters that matter most to Nevadans. Marilee talks with our congressional delegation and other leaders about the federal news you need to know. Eye on Washington with Marilee Joyce. Nevada's Eye on Capitol Hill.
I got my own iPod Touch and use my dad's login to get on gambling sites. Poker is the best, but I'm losing a lot. Since I'm too young to play, they're not allowed to keep the money and my dad won't find out. That's right, isn't it?
Are you studying tonight? We can meet up and study together.
Just text me after.
Okay. No!
There is no text, tweet, or call that's worth a life.
One pedestrian death is one too many.
Look up.
And look out for each other.
Where does the flu come from? I mean, we know it comes from the influenza virus, but how does it get to you or your child? The fact is, the flu virus is everywhere during flu season. And the best way to protect yourself and your family is with a flu vaccine. Getting vaccinated is easy and way better than getting the flu. Find the clinic location nearest you at immunizenevada.org.
Want more federal news that affects Nevada, its businesses, and its residents? Then you need to subscribe to Nevada's Washington Watch newsletter, your sole source of online news direct from Washington, D.C. Visit joycecommunications.com and subscribe today.
And it is time for our closing segment of today's Eye on Washington. We've had as our very special guest today, Dr. Margo Martin. She is the Vice President of Transition Activities and the former acting president of the College of Southern Nevada. Dr. Martin, as we look ahead, what are some of your other top concerns concerning Nevada higher education? And what are you, Dr. Riley, other top officials doing to try and alleviate some of them?
Well, I have to say that while access and affordability are really key, it's even more important, those folks that we get in the pipeline, that we get them to completion and graduation. And so that has really become a key focus for NSHE and for CSN, is to ensure that we're not only getting students in the door, but that we're creating refined pathways and lots of on-ramps and off-ramps so that we can get them to completion and help them be able to contribute to the new Nevada economy.
You know, it's an important topic, isn't it? Because we talk about, when we talk about leaving the system or dropout or et cetera, we're generally focused on high school. And it's interesting to think that that is a big concern as well of higher ed.
It's important that we not only get them in the door, but that we get them a meaningful credential so that they don't leave having incurred a lot of debt, but not having a piece of paper that says that they've got their ticket to a successful career.
Thanks so much for being here today on this
Thank you.
topic. Appreciate it. That does wrap up today's Eye on Washington. I do hope you'll join us next time for another look at federal matters that matter most to you in Nevada. In the meantime, though, we are always here for you, providing all the federal news Nevadans need to know. You can just go to our website, joycecommunications.com. While you're there, check out all the federal issues that impact Nevada. You can like us on Facebook. You can follow me on Twitter and catch up with any shows you may have missed on our YouTube page. Thanks for joining us today on Eye on Washington. I'm Marilee Joyce in Washington, D.C. Have a great day.
Thank you for watching Eye on Washington with Marilee Joyce. Eye on Washington with Marilee Joyce airs statewide in Nevada solely due to the generosity of our sponsors. Can your company help us continue our mission to remain Nevada's top source of federal news? If you can help us help Nevadans, please visit joycecommunications.com/WordPress/EOW sponsors and join us today. That's joycecommunications.com/WordPress/EOW sponsors.